on YouTube. Okay. There we go. Hello, YouTube. Hi, good people of YouTube, and welcome to the graduates and the guests. Welcome to the third day of presentations of the graduating students for the Interaction Design program, class of 2021. Congratulations, guys. We have 5 wonderful students today who are going to be sharing their stories and their professional journeys and personal journeys in the world of interaction design with us. And we have 3 guests who will give them some feedback and give them hopefully some very wise words of advice in their continuing professional journey. So we're going to start with the first 3 students, and we're going to take a break and then follow up with the other 2. So I'm going to ask our guests to focus on one of the students in the presentation while also paying attention to the others. So Rana, I'll ask you to focus on Ami, Ami. Orhan, you are going to be with Armel. Hopefully he will join us very soon. He's having a bit of a power issue. And hi, Brooklyn. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll ask you to focus on Dee's presentation. So after the students present, Pecha style, so 20 slides, 20 seconds per slide. So after the 3 students, we're going to go into a quick round of feedback and discussion, and then take a break. Okay?
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you, everybody. And Ami.
Yep.
You're going to start today.
All right. Fantastic. Let's see. You see my screen, okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. Just make sure of that. All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Ami. I'm a UX and UI designer, a senior IXT student at Santa Monica College. Today, I want you to get to know me and introduce some work that I did in the IXT program. I hope you enjoy my story. Oops, here you go. So I'm originally from Japan. Shizuoka is a medium-sized city 3 hours away from Tokyo by driving. Growing up, I enjoyed playing piano and drawing. Later in my teenage years, my hobby was to create a music track with MPC rhythm machine. I was always attracted to creativity. When the tsunami happened in 2011, the town was mostly impacted by it, was closed, and no one could go in and out. I was frustrated that I couldn't go and help. So I created a volunteer group. We raised $40,000 and donated all to Fukushima City for recovery. This experience got me a job at a media company to help structure and market a campaign that aids local stores and businesses. For the campaign ad, I was passing my sketch layout to graphic designer at the company. Then they told me I'm really good at sketching layouts and visualizing ideas. This raised my interest to be a designer, but I also wanted to study abroad to learn different perspectives, languages, and lifestyles. So why not do both? First year and a half, I studied English in Miami and Vancouver. Then I moved to LA, enrolled in Santa Monica College with a major in graphic design. Besides the graphic design classes, I took After Effects, web design, and user experience design classes. After I completed the program, I started take clients. I was creating logos, graphic assets, style guides, and helping design websites. The more I designed websites, the more I developed my interest in UX and UI design. I wanted to understand how digital service and product should be structured for people. That's when I started thinking about going back to SMC and enroll in IXD program. My experience in IXD program has been great. In the first year, we were challenged to pick a location, find a program, and solution. My team picked Westfield Century City. It is a large outdoor shopping mall that has interactive information kiosk that helps guests navigate the mall. While we are impressed by the interactive information kiosk, we wondered, what if you cannot see well? Would you notice a kiosk? Or how about if you're fully blind? How would you walk around the mall? This observation inspired us to help visually impaired guests walk around Westfield Century City. What I like about this project is that we were able to interview and collaborate with visually impaired people throughout the design process. We interviewed in person and online, walked around Westfield, and tested our prototype together at the site. Our research and interviews shows that guests prefer a conversational assistant. However, scheduling an assistant was a pain point. They also wish to complete their task without asking for help because completing a task independently increased their confidence. So we designed the concept of an audio-guided navigation app called WES. By using geolocation and AI conversational technology, WES informs where to go and when to make a turn, enabling the guest to walk around independently. The guest is no longer need to make an appointment, but can access Westfield anytime. Another reason that I picked this project is because I value equity. I like things that are fair, and I believe we all deserve fair opportunities. I also think learning from different perspectives opens a lot of doors that we can transfer to the design a better service and product. This way of thinking is strongly rooted in me and my design process. In the capstone project with Activision, our team was focused to design a solution for weaker position in the Call of Duty community, which are beginners and casual players. We were challenged to design a new feature to the current Call of Duty companion app. The app's purpose is to help players play smarter and stay connected to the Call of Duty community. Stats is a currently top feature in the app where the user can review their game performance in the analyzed data. However, after the interview, some players told us that they feel the feature is too serious, therefore the app is not for them. These people call themselves casual players who play Call of Duty just for fun. While they say that stats is too serious, they also express that they like to learn how to play better and go to third-party websites to learn tips and tricks. So why don't we provide the tips and tricks within the current app? We made a prototype of embedding tutorial video feed to the current app. We chose video format because we learned from our research that game players like watch other people's gameplay to learn strategy. What I appreciate about this project is that it reminded me of the importance of raising the question through the design process. For example, the players mentioned in the user testing that they like to give feedback after watching video, like leaving comments. We could provide a comment area, but we wondered what if the user leaves a comment that's a negative or even toxic. So we provided up and down vote system instead. The IXD program has taught me not only a various way to approach design, but also the joy of learning while working in collaborative environments. This makes me want to move away from working alone as a freelancer to work in design team. After graduating, I'd like to continue to learn more about design by participating in various types of projects. I want to grow as a designer who can reach more people by delivering design solutions that inspire and guide their everyday life to be brighter. Thank you for listening to my story today. Please feel free to contact me anytime. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ami. And we have Armel going next.
Hi, my name is Armel Patanyan. I'm an interaction designer living in Los Angeles with my wife and daughter and my neurotic dog who likes to terrify me by suddenly barking at nothing in particular while I'm deep in thought on a design project. It's partly why I usually play loud music while I work. But anyway, design was a bit of a career change for me. Before deciding to pursue this, I spent a number of years working in law firms as a docket clerk. When I discovered interaction design, I thought it was a good opportunity to build a more fulfilling career by bringing together my long-standing loves of art and science. But change is uncomfortable for me, so I stay motivated by maintaining a sense of perspective about the future and the past. I think about my wife, 2.5-year-old daughter, and the new one on the way. How can I give them a good life? But more pertinently, how can I help shape the world they will live in for the better? And for the past, I often turn to my previous successes and failures, like when I had my own coffee catering business. How good did it feel to build something from the ground up and see it make people smile? And then how much of a bummer was it to watch it collapse from not being given the attention it needed? In my career, there are 3 areas I hope to explore. First, I would love to be involved in the development of green tech, products like electric cars or maybe smart home devices that help save resources. I could design the screens on them or even how people interact with the products themselves. I'm also interested in designing to help science communication. At a time when vaccine denial delays herd immunity and global warming denial needlessly prolongs our environmental impact, it's important to apply design skills to help people make better choices. And I hope to contribute to science directly. I think particularly of NASA missions to other worlds. There are lots of interactions involved in executing missions like that, and I'd love to be part of the process of improving them. And how cool would it be to design an interaction that gets used in space? Studying design for 5 years now, I've completed dozens of projects related to web, mobile, environmental, product, and service design, while improving my research skills, teamwork, analytical abilities, and exploring multimodal solutions, even dipping my toe into the fields I like. My project called Conga came about because I wanted to come up with an internet-connected product that could address environmental concerns. At first, I designed a car braking system that would let any car participate in vehicle platooning. I worked out a system diagram accordingly, but then I decided to pivot. Part of the initial concept contained a networking platform. This led me to steer away from the technology and focus on a network of people driving cars equipped with adaptive cruise control. I just got done making a user journey, conducting an interview, and made some infotainment screens. Paired Fish for Nuclear is a Snapchat lens I created. Now, this is not really how I expected to explore augmented reality, but I happened to see an opportunity in it to take an odd approach and do some science communication. The lens turns you into a parrotfish floating in a colorful coral reef. But after a few seconds, you disappear and the pretty coral reef is replaced by a bleached coral reef. Then text appears that explains the connection between coral bleaching and global warming. It's a lens I designed to be sort of a memorable disappointment that people would probably only use once. I also recently started work on a project to actually aid in scientific exploration. It's only in the discovery phase, but the point is to design a way for mixed reality to help the experience of people who have to work in confined spaces for long periods of time, like astronauts maybe. So through these and my other projects, I've learned what I like in the design process. I like conducting observational research, talking to people to learn about their problems, wireframing and prototyping, and user testing. And I like to design for different types of interactions. And I appreciate working as part of a team. I found that I learn a lot from my teammates and that inevitably designs get better when we're all giving our input. It's very easy to get affected by your personal biases, so I really appreciate working with experienced people who give thoughtful feedback. I've also discovered what sort of designer I want to be. Going forward, I want to make things that are accessible, that encourage critical thinking, that do not impede social justice, that allow users to make responsible choices, and that are transparent in their intent and in their functions. When working, I draw my inspiration from a variety of sources. Like in music, I'm inspired by Robert Fripp of King Crimson. His music has been relevant for decades while always being true to his style. I think he accomplished this by asking, what are people doing now and what are they not doing yet? In art, I find inspiration in the works of Pierre Soulages and James Turrell. From Soulages, I learn you can be innovative without needing to rely on drastic change. And with Turrell, as shown here, he makes me think about how I can reimagine an experience someone may have. In design, I appreciate W.E.B. Du Bois's infographics, which are simple, beautiful, and powerful. And here you see NASA's sky crane technology that they use to land rovers on Mars. It's a very creative, effective solution, coming from breaking down the large problem into smaller problems. So that's a bit about who I am as a person and as a designer. I'm looking forward to my future design career, and I hope you would all like to be part of it in some way. Visit my website if you get a chance. From there, you can get a deeper dive into some of my projects, send me a message, and find me on LinkedIn. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Armel. Thank you very much. And Dee, would like to invite you to the stage.
Oh, thank you. I am thinking. Share screen. Hi, is it working?
Yes.
Yes. Perfect. Hi, my name is Dee. It's nice to chat with you today. I first came to America as a J1 exchange student. I stayed and obtained a bachelor's degree in philosophy while pursuing a career in healthcare. I studied physical therapy in the Netherlands and completed multiple internships in physical therapy and personal training in Amsterdam, China, and Malta. In 2018, I settled in Los Angeles as a first-generation immigrant and started my career transition to tech at Santa Monica College. However, my passion for the healthcare sector, lifelong fitness, and preventative care stayed with me. I felt that as a physical therapist, I was limited to helping people one at a time. But with design, I could have a much broader impact and benefit entire communities. The industries that I'm especially interested in contributing to are health and fitness, sustainability, and education. When working as a PT, the number one most frequent prescription I gave sedentary patients was consistent exercise. However, I discovered that the only consistent thing was poor adherence to this advice. So the question of how I can encourage people to be more active as part of their daily lives really intrigued me. So I was glad to work in a product design team as a user researcher and prototyping artist to create an augmented reality device called Fit. It aims to make fitness at home more engaging and immersive by projecting a lifelike trainer and workout instructions on the wall and floor of your home. Sustainable practices for the environment and better city planning make people healthier as well. While living in the Netherlands, I never needed to have a car. The bike lanes and the public transit connected me to every place I wanted to go to. The outside air smelled amazing. That was when I understood that the quality of life depends not just on physical health, but on the physical infrastructure and environmental protections that support it. I kept biking in Los Angeles, but whenever people hear that I don't drive, they're shocked. I wanted to encourage more people to commute by bike. So I started small. As a design project, I interviewed people in my city about their biking habits. Then, based on the findings, I led a team to create a feature for Google Maps that provided customizable bike routing with options such as avoiding traffic and hills. Less than a year after we completed this project, both Apple and Google implemented a similar set of features in their mapping products. Maybe they were inspired by our work. When we feel we belong in a supportive community, we are more likely to succeed in our educational careers and also more likely to be healthier. I've studied in 5 separate higher ed institutions, but it was at the community college where I finally felt like I'm part of something bigger. I wanted to do my part to understand and give back to this community that has helped me realize my passion and dreams in design. I work with the IXD program at SMC as a volunteer and a student worker to help build alumni programs, make curriculum recommendations, and create social media content strategy. I found fulfillment in maintaining, designing, and developing pages for the IXD website. Being able to showcase my classmates' work is so rewarding to me because I would love to see everyone appreciate their talent, dedication, and efforts. I hope all the students will find success after the IXD program and help each other by working together to create positive change in the design field. So I just showed you the industries that I would love to offer my efforts: health and fitness, sustainability, and education. Next, I want to also mention the inspiration for my design and my philosophy for life in general: art and people. I love art and I love people. However, I would not claim that I understand either. I have a special connection to art as I came from a porcelain artisan family. My family in China remains actively engaged in artistic work today, building on hundreds of years of family craft, which included painting porcelain art for the imperial court during the Qing dynasty. I've been working as a freelancer as well for the graphic designer, as a freelance graphic designer for the art laboratory as more in El Segundo for the past 2 years. Being in proximity to and creating design about artwork has made me really appreciate the way art is influenced by and is influencing culture. In a project I created for LACMA in Los Angeles about urban light installation by Chris Burden, I made an AR experience to allow people to walk into a portal within their own space to view the installation while adding new meaning to the experience by incorporating the live tree Yggdrasil, floating leaves, and a growing grass mask. Other than art, I'm inspired by the people in my communities, and that includes the design community and my college community. Being a part of the design community has inspired me to take leadership positions, because if I want to see people that look like me in those positions, the fastest way to do it is to be there myself. In the IXD club at SMC, I ran successful workshops and portfolio review events. Then after being elected president, I organized the club and changed its name to Design Club with popular support. With the help of enthusiastic members, we hosted a speaker series with inspiring designers and developers from all over the US and hosted workshops by current students and alumni. This past winter, I transitioned the club to a new generation of designers after being appointed the vice president of the Associated Students, which is the student government at SMC. I was honored to serve an even larger pool of students with the support of the board of directors and counselors of the associated students. I'm the creator of a Discord community for SMC with more than 700 members. As part of the design research class at SMC, I use cultural probes at the Center for Media Design to understand where students felt belonging. One of the responses was Discord, because that's where my homies are. I didn't know what Discord was at that time, but decided to try it out. I was surprised that people actually used it and found friendships over the server. I continued to moderate after the project ended with support from many SMC student clubs and associated student directors. Now this server has been running for 3 years and hosted regular events with the help of a team of volunteer moderators. Thank you for being a part of my journey. I hoped to share something about me that one might not be able to find in my portfolio. You can find me also on LinkedIn and see my portfolio here in the link. So have a great rest of the evening, and I hope to chat with you soon.
Thank you, Dee. So this is our first 3 students. Now I would like to invite the guests with their feedback, but before we do this, I think it's only fair that if we heard and learned something about our students, now we ask our guests to also briefly introduce themselves. So Rana, Orhan, and Brooklyn, I will ask you to maybe take a few seconds to a minute to just tell us about a little bit about yourselves.
Sure. So, Rana, thank you for having me back. I am a self-taught designer, which means I have a background in engineering and I taught myself design thinking. And now, for the last 3 years, it's instructional design or learning design, as I call it. And generally, the most inspiring thing I've heard. By the way, Armel, I checked out your zine. I found that super interesting. This whole general idea of not screwing the user, right? Not getting people addicted, I think is super, super valuable. And the more work I do, the more I realize that the last set of people who have any real influence in crafting attention is designers. You compel people to follow along. So I think it's a really scary time to be a designer, but also a really powerful time. And my contribution to all of this is just, to design learning experiences that hopefully make the process of learning in professional settings that much easier. That's a little bit about me, but thank you again for having me.
Thank you, Rana. Orhan?
Hey, everyone. So I was part of the first cohort of the SMC Interaction program who graduated, and this program definitely changed my life in a positive way. During the program, right before I graduated, I started a small UX design company called Playground Vision, which grew into doing more development, UX development and media work, and started overseeing the full cycle from start to finish for local businesses or startups. For the last 3 years, I've been actually, I've combined my past passion. I played competitive soccer throughout my whole life, and tech, and started a startup called Replayer. And I've been going through the startup journey, building an AI camera that auto records youth soccer games. So our mission is to help young athletes become their best and get discovered using video. And the most proud and challenging thing has been creating this thing so that it's accessible and affordable, which is something that you all learn a lot about in the program. And I'm very, very proud of that. I just want to end with this. While I was in the program, everyone in my cohort had various different backgrounds. No one necessarily came from design, but liked design. And I've witnessed that a lot of you throughout the years are the same. Don't be afraid to tap into that previous life of yours and combine the two. It worked great. UX is very applicable to many different verticals and industries. So yeah, super happy to meet you all, and thanks for inviting me.
Thank you, Orhan. And Brooklyn?
Hi, I'm Brooklyn. I currently work at GitHub as a senior product designer. So I design tools for developers mostly. I'm working on a discussions product right now, so luckily adjacent to very complicated things, not that complicated. I studied graphic design in college at Otis, and then I worked in some tiny design studios for a bit, and then I went to grad school at Art Center because I wanted to do more interactive work, and that was still earlier than there were interaction design programs in existence. And then I kind of learned UX on the job in my first job after grad school. And then I worked at some big consultancies doing all kinds of weird, different, very corporate projects, and then kind of ended up in this super techie space I'm in now. But yeah, I will say it is a rarity to be a person like me who studied design straight out of high school. Most people I work with didn't, that are in the same position I'm in now. A lot of self-taught people or people who like studied biology and are like a designer at GitHub. Like you can get to this field from anywhere. It's interesting.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Brooklyn. And so let's start with our round of feedback. I'll remind you guys, we kind of assigned a student to focus to our guests. So Rana, you had Ami, Orhan, you had Armel, and Brooklyn, you had Dee. So in that order, Rana, would you like to share your thoughts with us?
Yeah, sure. So I know there was a I like, I wish, and I wonder. But let me start with the I like. I thought the narrative arc was well told, right? The journey from Japan, your early years kind of doing social work, if you will, and getting noticed and traveling all the way to America, Miami and LA. I thought it was well told. The arc was interesting. It also gave a little more depth to your work. It helps me understand where you come from. As you've heard several times, I think designers draw from what they know, primarily life experience, and it really helps to know what shaped you, primarily your influences. So that was nicely done. In terms of what I wish was different, you mentioned I'm not sure, but I think you mentioned After Effects as one of the things that you enjoyed doing. Did you? Kind of, sort of.
Yeah, I was mentioning that, a little bit.
I would have loved to see it in the portfolio simply because more often than not, I see at this point, if you're doing interaction design, the expectation is that you have prototyped some part of the interaction on After Effects, right? And so that is the only ask I would have. I know traditionally portfolio descriptions they're about the work and the process, but I think it adds a little something extra when you've tried to animate a certain interaction. That's just because probably that's what I'm thinking about these days, right? If I try and see how somebody describes interactions, it's almost exclusively micro interactions, right? The patterns are set, you know what templates you're going to use, you know what the design language is. It's more about what the nuance is specifically. So that's just a wish, if you will. And in terms of wonder, and this is probably generic, not necessarily to you alone, Amy, but I wonder if how does one go from the aspirational domains that several you have mentioned to like a specific problem in that domain, right? And that is always the thing for me. So whether you take green, sustainability, planet Earth, how is there a specific problem within that area that would be interesting for you? I don't know if that's particularly helpful, but it's always a question for me as a designer. It's almost always that in these domains, nobody's actually looking at design at all. They're looking at, well, let's take global warming, or anti-vaxxers like, well, it's for and against, it's polarized. The design's point of view is to synthesize a distinct opinion and saying, I think here is a perspective we can go into. Science-based communication can change behavior, for example. I'd love to see that. Was that helpful at all? You should say no, it was BS if it wasn't. That's also legit.
Oh my God, those are fantastic feedback. Thank you so much, Rana.
Okay. Thank you. I'm glad it was helpful.
Thank you, Rana.
Sure.
Orhan?
All right. So I was just taking notes. So first of all, hi, Armel. Thanks for sharing. I was very inspired by your story. I really liked hearing about your past and family. I think often we got it from everyone, but you really went in depth and shared some tidbits that were very personal. And I think often people either forget or decide not to share those little details. But it helps us remind us that you're real and what and who means a lot to you. So I've been going on a lot of calls looking for new talent, and I find that really helps on those calls. So that's just a little feedback. I also liked seeing what motivates you, inspires you. You spent a lot of time doing that and clearly defining and outlining that, which leads me to I wish. I just thought that while you did spend a lot of time on your motivations and inspirations, I wanted to see how that translated into your work. I thought that you kind of skimmed over that. You gave more detail in the motivations and inspirations, but just sort of highlights or subtle overviews of your work. And I was actually trying to write a little bit more about your work, but I couldn't remember what your work exactly was. Thankfully, I took some notes. Project 1 was Conga, 2 was a Snapchat filter, 3 was some outer life thing, which that's all I have, some outer life thing, which I'm a little embarrassed about. But I'd have a lot about your motivations and inspirations. So that's hopefully a little feedback for you in terms of, I would love for you to connect that. I love the story, and trying to connect that would be great. In terms of I wonder, I haven't really gotten there yet, but I guess one thing, I was always the type of person that really cared about that story arc and the story itself from start to finish. I want to give a little shout out to Dee. I really liked how she did that in terms of just the things up top. I mean, just visual things, not just what you say, but also what you see goes along with what you say. The things up top and just how she was talking, but having several little images that were backing up her story, but not competing. So I guess my question would be, I wonder how you could tell your own story in your own way, but also keeping us as the audience in the loop. Whereas maybe I feel like I'm following you more and the visual cues are helping me follow you rather than they're competing and I'm trying to take notes of what you're saying and also what you're showing. But that could also be just me. As a UX designer, you should always get feedback from multiple people in your audience circle. So that's all I have for now.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Brooklyn?
Yeah. Hi, Dee. Good to see you again.
Good to see you, Brooklyn.
I really liked hearing your full backstory, and the through line of your past experience was super clear, and how your interests kind of influence your work now. I think that's awesome that you can keep going on that path. The illustrations made it feel really fun and personal, helped you tell the story really clearly. I thought the structure was really great. I wish the work itself stood out a little bit more, since you kind of use these thick purple outlines. So when you were showing screens, I was focused on the purple outlines, but trying to look at the actual UI that was being showcased. So it's just one kind of nitpicky thing. So yeah, just a better way to showcase the actual projects so that I remember those. But I definitely remember all the illustrations on the purple. And I wonder if you could show kind of your design outcomes a bit more clearly, because you're clearly so talented. You're design club president, which is awesome to hear about. But yeah, that was kind of my I wonder is how you could make the fact you're an awesome designer more clear, because the story was awesome, but then the work got a little bit lost. Yeah.
Thank you, Brooklyn.
Overall, amazing.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Brooklyn. And So we're almost at the break, but before we go on a break, I wanted to ask Rana, Orhan, or Brooklyn, did you have any other questions for the students? And Ami, Dee, and Armel, is there a question that you would ask? A short one that's on the tip of your tongue.
I have one question, if I may. I want to ask, I mean, I guess the three of you, but mainly also Armel, if you have an answer. If you had to really narrow down, if the challenge was to narrow down your story and your speech to pick one project, which project would that be? Still keeping the front and the end of your presentation, but focusing on that one project that would best summarize who you are and as a talent. Yeah.
Well, that's difficult to say because I deliberately chose them to really show the different things that I really care about. I probably would not include the Snapchat lens, even though I think that the science communication is the most important, one of the most important things that I've set my sight on doing. And I probably would not include it simply because as far as a medium goes, it's not something that's comfortable for me. So I would probably end up leaving Conga on there because that's the one that is related to green technology. It's got it's a technically in some ways it's multimodal. You know, it has a mobile component, it has a head-up display component, you know, it has, you know, interactions on an infotainment system, and that part is really interesting to me. I like cars, so I'd probably end up keeping Conga.
If I may also add then, so again, I know I'm repeating this, but I have been going on a lot of these calls, and oftentimes there's a time limit and I'm left with not knowing how I can utilize this person that I just talked to, because I don't know what exactly they are great at. I also got that feeling from the Conga one. It looked like there was a lot that you did there. So again, just another thing to kind of think about, if you can kind of like maybe pick one thing to really focus on to leave that recruiter or whoever that person is. You know what? I know exactly how I can utilize this person. Whether or not that person will hire you, that's a separate thing, but they just knowing and not knowing, those are two way different things, right? So that's one other feedback that I'd like to leave with you all with. So yeah.
Understood.
I have one question and one observation, maybe very, very quickly. So the question, I think often these things are set up as, you know, here we are, we know everything, which is not true. Maybe the flip question to the group is, what would you find useful? Not all feedback is useful. You would have figured that out by now, but you've all put together a storyline. Some of them have width, some have depth. Do you have a sense of what you're looking for from these conversations? Because then maybe it allows me to also look at those things particularly. In no particular order. I mean, no is also fine, but do you have a thing that you want in terms of feedback? Is it emphasis on craft? Is it, you know, the storyline holds up, or the integrity in the work, what have you?
Well, if I can just jump in again, at least for me, I think that, you know, the exercise here is communicating who I am and where, and you know, selling myself. So as you know, I always appreciate feedback related to the design itself, but I like, and I'm glad Orhan did so, the idea of what's the best way to sell yourself to somebody. Those are good things.
Got it.
I agree with that.
Okay, so tell your story, sounds like.
Yeah, this one was for me to like express like who am I, you know, getting what I was gonna say. He summarized well though. Like we wanted to like show who we are and then touching some work that we did in the XC program so that we can kind of show not just like who we are as a person, but at the same time like who we are as a designer. And then me personally, I was looking for feedback for the advice in the design field in general. You know, we are graduating now that like we are going to professional field. And if you actually have a like advice on that, I would love to hear that.
Okay, the field. Okay, thank you. And the observation building on what Orhan said was, I feel in all cases like a peephole through your craft would be really good to see, like an intense focus on craft, especially given its interaction design. Just show things moving, clicking. I think eventually they're looking at not the project, but the depth of crafts. So can that be transported into the thing that somebody's planning, right? It would be awesome to see that. Because it felt to me overweight on the narrative, which gives me a really rounded sense of you individually, but your craft, where is that at? From my perspective. Okay, I'm going to zip up as promised.
Thank you, Rana.
No, thank you.
All right, I think this would be a good time for us to take a quick 5-minute break.
Oh, you're back.
Sorry, I did not know I was frozen for the longest time. Thank you for letting me know.
So I think we can take a 5-minute break until 7:56, 7:51 right now. So we'll just shut off the video and we'll have the DJ take over with a little bit of music.
It's a California sunset.
All right, welcome back. I hope you had a chance to stretch your legs a little bit. And let's go on with the two students that we have. So I was hoping to reverse the order of the guest assignment a little bit. So starting with Brooklyn and Orhan, I'll ask you to focus on Genevieve, and Rana, I'll ask you to focus on Miguel.
Sounds
and
good.
Genevieve is going first. Welcome to the stage.
Thank you. I think Luke needs to stop sound sharing before I can screen share. Actually, no, I'm good.
Okay.
All right, can you all see this all right?
Yes, thank you.
Sweet. All right, it has loaded. All right, hello everyone. My name is Genevieve. And I know that it's really awesome when you can neatly package yourself up with one title that you definitely want for your future career. But I have so many different possibilities before me. I feel like I would be so happy as a product designer, as a UX specialist, as a project manager. Today, I'm going to take you through a journey of my past, present, and future, and the lessons that I've learned along the way. So my mom is a math teacher and my dad's a structural engineer. So not surprisingly, they instilled in me a love of logic puzzles. I grew up on Sudoku, card games, 4-hour-long games of Scrabble, and they taught me that an answer is always there. You just have to really put your head down and try and figure it out. My first 9 years of school, I was at this Catholic school that really encouraged community service. And I found myself teaching soccer to handicapped players in my local league, babysitting kids in transitional housing, and tutoring first graders with their math and reading. And these experiences gave me a sense of purpose and giving within my community from a young age. Around the same time, I got really into art. I was often late for lunch because I couldn't stop putting the finishing touches on my drawings and paintings. In high school, I created an art concentration to illustrate my favorite book quotes and song lyrics. Like many others, while I enjoyed art, I couldn't really imagine a career with it. Enter a subject with a lot more stability, engineering. My high school offered an engineering pathway, so I got hands-on experience with soldering, breadboards, truss calculations in high school. I also joined the robotics team where we created a remote-controlled Mylar blimp that was able to drop off a ping pong ball on demand, which was really fun. So when it came time for me to enter college, I chose Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, moved up there to the Central Coast, and I tried my hand at software engineering. I figured that I was going to like computer science because it's like a logic puzzle and it keeps my career options open. I figured I would learn to love it. I did not. Having to troubleshoot code at all hours of the night was really not my jam. So I started trying to figure out what did I want to do. Despite not liking a lot of coding, I did really enjoy computational art, which pushed me to create animated art with Adobe Illustrator and JavaScript. So I looked into interaction design, front-end design programs, and I found the IXD program. I moved back home to LA, started taking graphic design classes, and got myself this internship at 8to6 LA. This was my very first graphic design internship, and it was really an amazing experience to apply design to something that I really cared about. It was able to touch people's lives in a meaningful way. It was this nonprofit that helps kids with their creative writing skills. Shortly afterwards, I started working at the SMC Sustainability Center. And it's here that I really realized that I need to make climate change a priority in my life. I started changing my habits. I started going to climate strikes, always bringing my own grocery bags, biking more, cleaning my recycling before throwing it away. And this job, similarly to 8to6 LA, gave me the option, or it gave me this platform where I could use design for activism. So I started creating animations and graphics for SMC's Earth Week, Sustainability Week. I started organizing it. I became the vice president of the Eco Action Club. I branded the new recycling program, and it gave me the chance to meet other environmentalists. Even though I found a way to make graphic design ethical and worthwhile, I wasn't at first sure how to do the same with interaction design. I had this idea that if you're not working at a charity or doing first like hands-on aid, that you're not really making a difference in the world. And it took a discussion with my parents that was really eye-opening for me, that made me realize that just about any job is going to create positive change in the world, and especially interaction design. It's critical for smoothly running products and systems and interfaces. And it's really like that saying goes, high quality design is often invisible. So I entered the IXC program at SMC, and here I learned about designing for desktop and mobile, information architecture, and it brought me to my very first project in this program, which was Crosswalker. So we were asked to improve mobility somewhere, and my team focused on the issues that disabled pedestrians face at Abbot Kinney in Venice. They really struggled to cross streets in time, and it's terrifying to have cars impatiently honking at you and creeping up while you're trying to cross the street. We prototyped an app that automatically adds time to the timer only when people with disabilities are present. This project was a really windy road, but the main thing that I learned from it was to talk to the intended users. Their perspective gave my team so much direction, and I'm really proud of our resulting project. Last summer, I worked as a web design instructor at Code Tenderloin, a nonprofit up in San Francisco. And this was a really great experience because it gave me a teaching experience, which was not something I'd really been going for, but trying to introduce HTML and CSS in as clear a way as possible actually helped me understand it more. Then last fall, I led my student team through an interaction design project for Activision. Neither video games nor war really interests me, so working on the Call of Duty companion app was a challenge in learning how to really care and invest myself in something that I hadn't previously cared about. It was overall a really exciting project. So lessons learned up until this point. I learned to believe in my artistic abilities, to make sustainability a focus in my life's work, that design can touch people's lives in a meaningful way. And definitely above all, I learned to talk to the intended users. So now for my present and future, now that you're all caught up on my past. This summer, I am going to intern at Lextant as a UX design intern. And then this fall, I am going to start my master's program at Carnegie Mellon, where I'll be studying integrated innovation for products and services. I'm really excited about this degree. It's going to give me the chance to apply my interaction design skills in an environment that also teaches me business and engineering. And after graduating from Carnegie Mellon, I will have to face this challenge of figuring out exactly what I want to do. I love the visual nature of graphic design, but I don't want to limit myself to just interfaces. So I want to design clean, intuitive, and deceptively simple systems. And above all that, I really want to be a leader in whatever industry that I do join. So thank you so much for listening today. Here is my contact information if you want to get in touch. And I hope that you enjoyed learning a bit about me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Genevieve. And Miguel, we're inviting you to the stage now.
Perfect. Let me share my screen. Is this working?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Let's refresh this. Oop. Oop, oop, oop. Yeah, that should be good. So good evening, everyone. My name is Miguel Brian Juteau, and I'm a visual and brand designer. Today, I'm going to talk to you about my background as a creative and just celebrate those who have been part of my journey and, just give them mentions. But before that, has anyone heard someone say, like, my mom is the best cook? Well, they're all wrong, just because my mom is the best one. So I was lucky to have had a very hands-on mom who loved to cook. All her recipes became the foundation of a great childhood and the beginnings of my love for food. For me, food became a way to communicate and connect with others, but most importantly, it's a way to keep her memory alive. You see, back in 2009, she lost her battle to cancer, and it took me years, even up until now, to process everything that had happened. But through it all, I'm fortunate enough to have an aunt and uncle who are now my mom and dad, who supported us no matter what. They're here today, so I want to say thank you. To my dad, you may not know this, but you were the beginnings of my colorful journey in design. He taught me how to code my first website and make an AJAX request to load my pages, which was very, very cool at the time. I still remember that exciting feeling, and I carry with me every time. So thank you. Going back along the way, I've met people who have helped me get through all the emotions, and that's when I realized the value of relationships. This yearning for connection with others, perhaps to fill a void, kind of became the basis of my journey as a creative and using food and design as my base. As a designer, I like working on projects related to food, education, community building, and entrepreneurship because these are areas in my life that have continuously impacted the way I think, design, communicate, and connect with people. One of the initiatives I co-created this semester as it relates to education and community building is called Weekly Design Challenges.
Miguel, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but it seems that your slides are not advancing.
No. Is it moving?
No.
No,
Or
it's
did it
still...
stop? Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry, we're still on the first slide.
What?
Hey, but yeah, I followed your story all the way through, so you could just...
Oh no.
keep going.
Okay. Well, I guess let's not mind the images for now.
Do you want to unshare and share and try that again?
Yeah, do you want to reshare? You want to reshare your screen?
Oh yes, I can do that. Let's. Is this a thing?
Let's try and go to the next one.
I guess I'll just manually
yes.
move it.
There we go. It's working.
Sorry. Okay. So this is my mom that I was talking about earlier, and her food was my inspiration. Up until now, she's always in my mind, and I cook. I love sharing food with others just because of her. And this is my mom and my dad right now. My aunt and uncle are my mom and dad, and they really just supported us, me and my siblings, throughout all these years. And all the relationships and the people I've met really helped me to be the person that I am today and overcome those feelings and trials and stuff. So this is actually the weekly design challenge where me and other students work on it together. So this is where I left off. So let's see if this works. So together with Design Club, we host 1-hour events where students are able to practice and explore design by tackling different creative briefs every week. As you can see, we have a lot of fun interpreting these challenges in our own styles. What I love most about it is the safe space that we've created for people to try out something new. When it comes to food, I've learned that in a lot of rural areas, food deliveries from food banks are not guaranteed for a lot of elderly folks living in remote places. This significantly lowers their chances of having access to fresh and healthy food on a regular basis. After doing research, we proposed a project called Food for People app. So imagine DoorDash, but for local food banks. And the idea is to allow seniors to make requests more frequently from their local food banks and activate the community to help make the deliveries. Although the solution was far from perfect, it allowed me to make mistakes and deepen my understanding of human-centered design, as well as expand my interest in food as it relates to accessibility. Outside of school, I make it a point to find my own voice and just experiment on ways to express my creativity. Recently, I found a pre-colonial writing system from the Philippines called Baybayin, which means to spell. This discovery has introduced a new part of my identity and has connected me with a community who wants to push our culture forward. So I'm exploring ways to bring these characters to life and so that I can create awareness of our Filipino culture. The goal is to make them more fun, lively, and inviting so that it connects with more people. One of my favorite mediums so far, as you can see here, is through linoleum printing. So I've also have been having fun practicing Baybayin together with learning how to design with brushes and markers. What I love is that these tools are pretty affordable and accessible for everyone, which brings me to one of my larger goals of how to make design education more accessible and affordable. So this idea started when I worked at a nonprofit called Tenderloin, where I help low-income high schoolers build their own websites, kind of like what Genevieve did in her past summer. Most of my students were talented and passionate, but did not have the means to afford design school. I am a self-taught graphic designer for that exact same reason, and so I want to do my part in fixing the problem. Now, as graduation peaks around the corner, I made a decision to pursue a career in branding, strategy, and visual design. I really find joy in collaborating with entrepreneurs and in clarifying who they are as a business and turning that strategy into visuals so that we can use it to connect with people who resonate with their brands. One day, I want to be working with companies such as Collins, IDEO, Pentagram, and verynice.co. Because besides being great designers and visual storytellers, they make time to support students and provide them growth opportunities to find their own footing as creatives. In the meantime, I'll be helping the communities that I serve through a collaborative side project called Kapwa Studios, a small homegrown creative agency between me and my best friends Andrew Ma and Ralph Buan. So the term kapwa, or fellow, is a Filipino word that embodies the idea of togetherness, shared identity, and supporting one another. Our goal is to help kapwa, or fellow entrepreneurs, who identify themselves as Black, Indigenous, and people of color who need digital and creative support to bring their ideas to life and share our values of building a community through inclusion and equity. This pandemic has shown us the uneven playing field when it comes to supporting BIPOC entrepreneurs. So we want to, try and bridge that gap to the best as we can. As for my current inspirations, designers and artists like Keith Haring, Soluit, Timothy Goodman, and Mr. Doodle really fuel my designs when learning to create more meaningful work. All of these look deceptively simple, but most often they revolve around culture, identity, and wellness. One other thing for sure is that, they're all fun and playful, which connects with a lot of people. And for me, it's all about that, making connections, whether it's through food, design, community building, or teaching. I want to connect with people because I love listening to their stories, learning from them, and if I'm lucky enough, I get to share mine with them. But for now, that's it for me. I know it's been a long night, so if you'd like to work on your next branding, visual design strategy project with me, or know someone who wants to, please, these are my links and I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much for coming tonight and have a great evening.
Thank you, Miguel.
Thank you.
I appreciate you rising to the technical challenge. It was a great save. So thank you. I'll pass it on to our guests, Brooklyn and Orhan. Would you like to start?
Sure, yeah. Hi, Genevieve. It's good to see you again, too. I really liked how super clear your story was from the beginning and the way you structured the presentation, telling us what you were going to tell us. And you opened with saying you're not sure like what part of design you really want to do. So I think that kept me from looking for specific design outcomes while you're talking, because I was like, she doesn't know exactly what she wants to do. So I'm not going to look for like evidence that she's good at UX or anything like that while you're going over it. And I love how after you tried engineering and didn't love it, that finding design helped you find something that got you back to helping kids the way you did when you were a kid. Like, it was really cool to see that connection. And it was cool to see that teaching helped you understand something better about yourself. I don't think I have a wish or what. I think I wonder what you're going to do after grad school, because it's just going to be awesome, but you already have like a plan. So I'm not like, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited to see what I do after grad school too.
I think we all are. And Orhan?
All right. So, hi, Genevieve. Thanks for sharing. I really enjoyed that beginning part of the story as well. You really took us through that linear storyline of how you kind of started and who your parents were and what kind of influence they had on you. I thought that was special. I want to say that I really like how passionate you are. I can really feel that from your presentation. I thought that was pretty special and important. I like that you want to continue your education. That's something that I found that should never stop. So I applaud you for that. I really liked your final lessons learned slide. I thought that was pretty smart. We all learn things in our journeys, and to summarize that, that's pretty incredible, and should be done more often. I also want to kind of go into my I wish again. I wish that I got a little tiny bullets of what you learned on the screen so I can keep up with what you're saying, or maybe visuals. And even better, or a bonus, if you can kind of connect, if they happen to be on the topic of like, if you learn stuff through your school projects or your experiences in school, that would have been cool to see what you learned in your projects. So that brings me to, I wish I got more about your projects. And then when you talk about what you, the lessons you learned, then you can kind of resurface them again. And then what you learned could be in that section. Typically, you know, you kind of, or I've seen it where people talk about what they have done and then the takeaways from that back to back. But it could have been cool if you had done kind of like what you did in school as far as projects, and then at the end resurface all of them and what you learned from all of them. I've never thought of that. That's cool. I might even use that when I present. And so I want to challenge you in the I wonder section. I'm looking for my note because somewhere in here, I was, here we go. So short childhood, you want, if you can take your intro actually and shorten it to 1 to 2 minutes max. So a suggestion would be maybe like shorter childhood and the connection to Cal Poly, to pivoting to realization and transition into UX and IXD. Because your story is incredible, but if you can pack it into a short amount of time and connect it to who you are now, which is more about this present. I thought your present and future, we don't know much about, all of us, so that's kind of tough, but if I got more of the present, I would have appreciated it. So that could be just a challenge that I can possibly throw your way, and shortening the intro, increasing the present, and then connecting the two somehow would be great.
Yeah, I 100% agree. So thanks so much.
All right. Thank you, Orhan. And Rana.
So well done on improvising, Miguel. So to kind of, you know, not to lose your nerve, give up, not give up, all good. So, you know, the reason I asked you guys for what you want to hear first is so I can tailor it. So let me start with what might be useful. I saw a clear emphasis on a graffiti-like illustrative quality in your work, which I think you're discovering. I would love to see it blown up, right? The Keith Haring influence, the seductive simplicity, it has the power of playfulness. It can draw people in, but it can give a really powerful message. So I would love to see you explore that side more, including, you call it
Bye-bye-in, yeah.
Bye-bye-in, right?
Yeah.
So something about the linoleum prints feels very, very close to who you are. So I would love to see more of that. That's one. The other thing I'd like to see is, clearly, given your life history, life circumstances, connection, the need for connection. I enjoyed vulnerability. The self-awareness that you're yearning for connection is really nice to see. It also is fuel when you know you're driven by it consciously rather than subconsciously, so that you know that your own connection will, back to my previous rant, which I think it's so important to veer towards authentic connection in these times. None of the systems we have, social media systems, are designed for it. It's quite the opposite, right? So to kind of lean into that and saying, well, this doesn't feel exactly like real connection. What might that mean? I think is also really useful. You're probably scratching the tip of the iceberg, which is the food bank thing. My hunch is you might have more fun with the connection part of the food challenge, or senior citizens or the homeless, than the food part of it, right? Although food is a really powerful thing. Okay, so having said that, what did I like? I like the fact that your narrative is authentically told, right? It's clean, it's straightforward, and it takes courage to be vulnerable. So well done. It's not easy to do. I also like the fact, what would I wish? I would wish for you to crystallize it out into how does it shape the lenses that you see the world through today. right? So we are a collection of all the influences that we have had, but it's only when you use it as a specific lens that it have a kind of power as a designer. If you say your desire for connection comes from the fact that you've seen people who are they adopted you, they're uncle and aunt, they're not biological, it makes no difference whatsoever, it has a huge bearing on what you consider relationships going forward. So I'd love for you to see how do you make it into a lens and a principle that you apply. That's the wish. And I wonder if there is something for you at the intersection of connection, which is really 1:1, and graphic design at scale, right, which is really Banksy, large scale intervention style, you know. I don't know what that is, but that feels like a fun place to play with, where you do want intimate personal connection, but also blow this out to give you a sense of the power of something like this. I think Greenpeace started pretty much the spray painted Greenpeace started pretty much because they were heading towards Bikini Atoll and they wanted to stop the thing. They called the campaign "Don't Make Waves" because they were testing atomic bombing, right? And that blew out into a narrative and mythology and things like that. So there's lots possible. If I haven't confused you totally, let me know. If you found that useful, also let me know.
No, everything was really very useful, especially when you were talking about the relationships in itself. For example, like in food, you were right. I am more interested in the relationship and connection parts of food. Food in itself, like for me, is just a vehicle to make connections with people. For the most part, people in this cohort I invite to cook for them and stuff just because I want to get to know them more. And the food in itself, it doesn't have to be like good. It can be whatever it is. It's the conversations that I have with people, the information I get to relate to them, especially when I'm sharing Filipino food in my past clubs and stuff like that. It's, yeah, you're right. It's really just a connection part. And yeah, it's interesting. I would really love to, you know, keep at that lens and really try to construct the world and how I see it through that relationship lens.
Awesome. I invite you to lean into it and see what comes out of that, because I feel developing your instinct for what is design and not design for you is like a purely personal pursuit. Right?
Oh, definitely.
If you have a couple of internal compasses, that much better.
Thank you so much. Very insightful. I really appreciate your thoughts.
My honor.
Thank you, Rana. And there was a conversation a little bit about the sort of advice for the graduates from the guests, and I wanted to kind of focus that conversation and maybe give it a little bit of direction with asking a question about something quite specific. So Rana mentioned craft, right? So you talked about craft a little bit. Orhan, you talked a little bit about kind of like learning and figuring out the new challenges as you go into from one venture to another venture, right? And so I wanted to ask you a little bit about this very interesting dichotomy that we see in the program, and I'm sure you notice in the workplace, and that is the relationship in the professional persona, in the professional world, between the hard skill or so-called hard skills and soft skills, right? So on one hand, coding, ability to produce graphics or motion graphics. On the other hand, the ability to collaborate, the ability to empathize and understand people. So I wanted to ask you, the three of you, to comment a little bit on how do you find this relationship between hard skills and soft skills to be impactful in your own career, and what would be your advice to the graduates regarding those? Brooklyn? Not to put you on the spot, but
oh, it's a tough one. I'm like, they're equally important in my experience. Like, yeah, like if someone has really good craft, but they're like not great to work with, I'm not gonna care to work with them any further. I'd almost say in that case, the hard skills are less important because they're easier to teach. So like I would prefer to hire someone who's like super collaborative and like open and wants to learn and like has some basics than than someone who's like kind of a jerk and is really, really, really good at design. Because I don't think you can be really, really good at design without having all of the soft skills. Yeah, that's kind of my take right now.
By the way, can you see me moving at all? Because I never know. Is the
Yes.
video okay?
See you.
Yeah.
I would reframe this as process versus craft rather than soft skill versus hard skill, which is to say, it's almost a given that if you have a jackass who's really good at what they do, they will get filtered out. In a startup, they will get filtered out for sure, but even in a big company, you cannot be a designer and be kind of elitist and standoffish. Maybe some engineers can, but even they are not tolerated. So it's assuming the personable. But for a designer, I've seen the pendulum swing. Like I said, started with design thinking. It's gone from, oh, we don't know what to do, designers help, and process, and democratization of design to, gee, it works fine. Thanks so much. Go back to what you're doing. Right? So you don't hear it was design thinking anymore, which I think is fair. The process becomes valuable when the companies are in dysfunction and when you're taught how the magic works, like, ooh. But the emphasis now is we are building products. Can you help with the business? Right. The catch though here is, like, for example, you now have a project for, we're working on a consumer app for a band, if you will. The designers still expect to know the full process fluidly from research, synthesis, insight, do the first set of sketches, go in at very high fidelity, get customer feedback, change it up, do a little bit of motion design with, AE to UX, go back again. So the expectation isn't that, oh, show me the paper sketches. The expectation is show me the stuff moving. That's what a designer is for, because the level now is A/B testing. And you have to know how to kind of engage with them with the process in the background, if you will. What that means is I could have brought you into the design thinking process and told you the phases. Now nobody cares. Like, what can you show me? And you've got to dial it up and down, right? So I feel it's super important. Like, that's why I felt these narratives were interesting for me, because they gave me a sense of self, like who you are as a person. I find that very important. But that assumes that your knowledge of process is up to scratch, because nobody's going to test you on it. They'll just see the output and saying it doesn't work. Right? I don't know. Does that make sense? Brooklyn, or Orhan, is your experience different from this? I'm in a big fat German company, so I could be like sitting in an island talking about the stuff, but you probably have a different view of this.
All right. I'll jump in and piggyback on that a little bit and about reframing things, because I think everyone can say a lot about hard skills and soft skills, but I think sometimes maybe it helps reframing things and looking at things from a different lens. So I agree with Rana. So one thing that I can say collectively everyone has in this group, and I've always seen this in just about every time I come into this, is passion. And then everyone also attempted to tell a story. I want to remind everybody that the world revolves around those two things. Oftentimes you're going to leave this and you're going to try to follow your passion, but I think something that Rana said in there that I heard was like, the world keeps pushing you to meeting certain deadlines and achieving certain things. It is definitely a balance of balancing your passion and meeting deadlines, but that's where I think storytelling comes into place, because you can actually slow down time or take more time and elongate time through storytelling. So, and maybe Miguel really likes branding because not only he can bring his UX strategies and methodologies into that, but there is that storytelling aspect of it, which I also liked a lot about branding. So oftentimes the way I like to think of it, and this is an analogy that I've been kind of forming recently. I've never been a video game person. The only thing that I have played in the past was FIFA and Age of Empires. I remember one thing about Age of Empires is that when you start the game, you have this little island and the whole map is black, and you send men around the map to actually light up parts of that darkness. and you start to navigate and learn more about that world, and you discover things, and you start mining, and you start cutting trees, and you start finding enemies, and you start forming, I don't know, better and different strategies. So I see that as like, you know, approaching life that way and projects that way with that lights off mentality. Because when you don't know what's in your surrounding, you're more likely to explore and be open-minded, which leads me to wanting to and being open to navigating quickly and finding your way. I think that's one of the best advices, if I may give an advice. I think we're all in it together and we're all learning from one another. Is that one thing that you should try to navigate quickly and find your way. And that way that you find may change tomorrow, and that's okay. As long as that final thing I want to leave you with, which is working hard and wanting to solve problems collectively. I'm not a technical person, but I happen to be building a product, an AI product. And that's only because I'm working collectively with others that know how to do parts that I don't know. I'm just able to communicate my passion with story, and hopefully try to be a light in that room that's kind of dark. So I know that kind of came out a little too storytelling, but I promise it was from the heart. And you know, try to kind of think of things as we move forward that way, because it's really easy to get lost.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Brooklyn, Rana, Orhan.
Maxim, I want to say one more thing. I'm so sorry. I was drinking tea, and these come with like these little quotes.
Yeah.
This one says, "May your head and heart speak with one voice." I thought it was so applicable to today, because it's so difficult to do that. Often I'm seeing people reading from their script, but Miguel went off script for a little bit, and I really connected with that when he was telling that story from the heart. So try to do this difficult thing, because you can really feel and connect with people that way.
Thank you, Orhan. I Go
Sorry,
ahead.
I have a follow-up question.
Absolutely, absolutely.
It was so interesting. It was so interesting, Orhan, what you said, slowing down time and like speeding it up with storytelling. I just wanted to like see what you mean by that.
I don't know. It's one of those things I'm still exploring, but you know, oftentimes I feel like I'm running a startup, right? So you have to tell stories more often than not, and you have to tell the same story over and over again in the same exact way, a lot of times, and sometimes tweak it a little bit and introduce new experiences that you just had. I don't know. I think, you know, when you have a passion and you're telling that story, I guess one thing that I want to kind of throw in there as a challenge, and this is a must-have ingredient, is that you can't make it about yourself, and you have to be able to find a way to connect it to that passion, which is that goal or mission that you're after. And I think that's maybe hopefully answers that a little bit. If anybody else has, you know,
I like what he said. I feel this is very old and very new at the same time, right? We, in the whole campfire business, we enjoy being entrained. We enjoy somebody walking us through a big narrative with lots of ups and downs, and we're willing to suspend. Like each time you go sit in a dark room and suspend, you know, willing suspension of disbelief. That's all of it. And you will know this. If you look at an MTV video, it's cut a certain way, you feel, oh, it's right. If somebody uses intonation. So it's probably the one domain which is purely like the domain of the designer, because you're grabbing their attention, their feelings. Only musicians do it better, right? Which is you give all of them in a concert. It's that feeling of, man, I want more of this. But it's super hard to pull off. I mean, it sounds beautiful to say it around, but it's a pain in the ass to do it right? But it's true influence if you can.
I think you inspired me there, though, because with the musicians thing, you're right. Like they do somehow get through the barrier and connect with everyone in front of them through multiple things like words and sound and so on. I'm going to explore that a bit.
Yeah.
How can I become a UX musician or whatever,
In 3.5 minutes, yeah. It's 3.5 minutes of
Yes.
suspension of disbelief.
And people keep repeating that music with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
I don't think it helped, Dee, but it got people talking.
No, that was interesting. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. I think we're just about at time. I personally wanted to riff off of the Orhan's T quote, and to the head and the heart. I would also ask you to add hands, so that your hands will also speak with the voice that your head and the heart have. And with those three, I'm sure you will go and do great things. And I'm looking forward to seeing what you will create and where your career will take you. I hope you will not forget us and come back and share your future experiences.
Yeah, thank you, Maxim.
Thank you.
Maxim.
Thank you,
All the best,
everybody.
everybody. Stay in touch. Send me a link
And-
request.
Yes,
Happy to stay
please.
in touch.
Will do.
And an extra
see
round
you
of
all.
applause for our guests. Thank you so much for coming over and sharing your insight and your feedback with us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We really do appreciate this.
Thank you
for
very
Great
much.
having
seeing
us.
you guys.
Yeah, likewise. All the best, everybody.
Good night. Thank you.
Nice meeting everybody. Take care.
Yeah, nice meeting
Good
you.
night.
Bye.
Congrats, everyone.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.